I was at a gig on the Gold Coast at the weekend, driving from Coolangatta Airport. I couldn't believe the cranes, the massive holes in the ground along the highway. But from my experience, which I'll come to in a moment, I was staggered by the potential devastation to small businesses along the highway, which will be disrupted for God knows how long, by the extension of the Gold Coast light rail to Burleigh Heads. Now, those of you who are regular listeners would know that from way back in 2017, I went into bat for small businesses in central Sydney and the disgraceful way they were being treated by the digging up of George Street and far beyond to build a light rail. The thing started at Circular Quay and went forever. The devastation was monumental. The mob who won the contract to build the light rail, Altrac, were being hit by the Berejiklian government for compensation because they reckoned they couldn't finish the thing on time. But this mob still got paid. Or as I said, they got the goldmine, small business got the shaft. Right up to and beyond Surrey Hills. Not one, not two, but 3 bad Christmases. Homeowners at Randwick woken at 3 a.m. by the sound of drilling and heavy vehicles ploughing through the next section of the road. People were ringing me up and writing to me. I met them. I listened to them. Government wouldn't. Michael Baird was the Premier when this began. I asked him whether there was compensation guaranteed to small business owners. There was no provision in the construction contract for compensation. Can you believe that? How incompetent can government be? Or to what extent can they abandon their constituents? Shop owners were offered nothing. Income foregone, businesses destroyed. In these things, you've got to put yourself in their boots. How would you manage? Some people talked about taking their lives. No penalty to the contractor who constantly refused to have the project delivered on time. Taxpayers wrote blank cheques. In the media, I was alone in trying to save these businesses. I met with them. I came away fearing for the health and well-being of some of these people. One said, "I can't survive. Why isn't the Premier here tonight? Why does it have to be alanjones? The LNP has always backed small business and the man on the land. It's a complete and utter lie." That was at a public meeting we held. Another said, "The first time I felt in control of the situation was the day I met my liquidator." A doctor whose medical practice was affected by all of this talked about the impact on his patients. To the point of boredom, I sought to persuade the Baird and Berejiklian governments to understand the gravity of the problem. At one of the meetings, a resolution was passed unanimously, which said, and I quote, "At a public meeting on Thursday night, August 3, 2017, at 388 George Street, moving expression was given of critical, dramatic and life-threatening circumstances facing people and business as a result of the light rail project. The meeting urges government to appoint an independent judicial tribunal to hear concerned interests with a view to approving appropriate and life-saving compensation to those affected by the light rail project," unquote. Well, one person who never gave up was Angela Vatulkas. I think this woman is an absolute unacknowledged star. I might add, she and I and others went out to Church Street, Parramatta, where the same devastation was underway, as in Hunter Street, Newcastle, as is now happening on the Gold Coast. Angela Vatulkas was a councillor for the Sydney City Council. She founded the Small Business Matters political party. Her business was destroyed. Foot traffic non-existent. Noise, dislocation and no progress. Throughout the construction, government constantly made noises that landlords should be more understanding, that landlords should compromise with their tenants who were affected by the construction. Landlords should help sympathetically on the question of rent. Well, government did nothing. Why? State Rail, Transport for New South Wales and the Department of Industry, 3 separate government departments, were feeding off the carcasses of small businesses. 2 of those small businesses initiated a class action lawsuit filed against the state's transport agency in the New South Wales Supreme Court. Last Wednesday, Justice Richard Kavanagh found that Transport for New South Wales was liable for financial losses to the businesses as the harm caused by the project delays was foreseeable and indeed predictable. Mr. Justice Kavanagh's words, quote, "The defendant, Transport for New South Wales, may have been exposed to additional costs, But the persons who ended up bearing the costs of the prolonged construction activity were some of the business owners along the light rail route. He said they'd been promised minimal destruction and a staged process of construction which would have seen them exposed to the construction activities for months rather than years, unquote. Well, now, potentially hundreds of businesses can seek compensation for disruption. Almost laughably, lawyers for Transport New South Wales denied claims that the work had caused a nuisance to businesses. Can you believe this?